It's 11 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. Pete's given me the thumbs up and we are live from our Pinhole Quilting showroom. So welcome to everybody who's watching it live, and also for those of you who are watching it catch up on either YouTube or Facebook, and we'll post it later to Facebook and YouTube. The thing about YouTube, if you can subscribe to our channel, that would be fantastic. The YouTube channel is something that we're going to expand on. Every week when we do our Facebook Live, we post it up to there as well. And that gives you the opportunity to watch it back whenever you like. And for those of you who aren't into Facebook, it gives you an opportunity to watch it as well. But if you subscribe, you'll be the first to know when we've posted new content. So what about this week? What have we been doing this week? We've had a very busy week this week. I kind of think that that actually is the case for Pinhole Quilting most of the time anyway. But this week we were over in Essex and we did a lovely installation with Philippa and her daughter Anne, and that was great. It was a long way. I think in total, including a little stop for a coffee, was 3.5 hours each way. So that's quite a long day. That's why both of us went, so we can kind of share the driving. But it's a lovely installation. It was a beautiful building designed by Anne's Philippa's son-in-law, who's an architect. So absolutely great, beautiful space, and we really look forward to seeing how Philippa and Anne, her daughter, get on. It was an Avanti on a Studio 2 frame, and that was actually the last of our brand new Avantis, and represents the end of that model in the UK, other than the second user models that get snapped up within a moment of them becoming available. If you are interested in second user machines, we do help facilitate the sales. And certainly if you're thinking of upgrading, definitely talk to us. Let us know what you've got. You always need to know how many stitches and how old it is. So send us that information. And if you're interested in upgrading your handy quilter to a newer model or a different model of any kind, just let us know. And there are various ways that we can do it. We'll send you the information and then you can choose which suits you best. There are lots of people who've been doing that since we offered that as a service, and even if people aren't upgrading, we do offer it as a service, but there is a charge if you are not upgrading. So what's happened this week? Well, apart from seeing Philippa and Anne, we've had some of our offers. They've now expired, so we've got some new offers coming up. I'm going to talk to you about what those offers are. But I just wanted to talk about the wider picture for us here at Pinhole Quilting. We've been keeping a close eye, as many people have, on the numbers, and now there are widely available testing kits that you can order in advance. We're going to open up our classes, and on Monday, which is a bank holiday, I'll be putting up some of the classes and sending out an email to let you know that for those of you who have not been able to take up the opportunity to have a foundation workshop here at the Pershore Pinhole Quilting showroom, you will be able to do that in June. Abigail and I have worked on the different content, and we've borne in mind the fact that some of you have been attending the virtual classroom. Now, the advantage of doing the virtual classroom is that if you can tick the boxes of some of the techniques that we've been teaching you there. Thank you, Pete. Pete's got the, oh, good morning. So I can see now who's chatting away to us. So I'm just going to say hi to Val and Lindy and Denise. Those are the ones I can see right away. So hi. It's lovely to see so many familiar faces each week, and it makes us feel a little bit less isolated, and hopefully the same is for you. So I was talking about the classes. The priority will be to get those foundation workshops up and running. And as I said, for those of you who've been attending the foundation workshops that we have for our new customers, that is a virtual workshop. It's not available just to everybody who's had a machine in the past. It's only for those people who've purchased them and were, because of COVID, unable to attend. We've been having Zoom sessions every week. Last week we did, oh, that was exciting. That was a session on groovy boards and pantographs, and I had 2 cameras, and it was pretty intense live to do that demonstration. So I hope those of you who watched it enjoyed that. The nice thing will be that if you've done some of those videos, and there'll be sort of like a base level, we're going to send you a little questionnaire. If you can answer all the questions on the questionnaire, then you can come on the Foundation Plus, which will be a little bit more advanced than the Foundation Workshop. And it means that you're not just repeating the content that we've already shared with you on that virtual workshop. So if you have had a machine and haven't joined our Facebook group for the virtual workshop and haven't watched any the videos. I highly recommend that you do that, because it means that if you do come to the showroom, you'll be able to take part in the Foundation Plus. The other opportunity that we will have is for those people who want to stay maybe a day or two, more than a day, I should say. You will be able to do, potentially, you'll be able to do, if it fits with your diary as well, feathers and fills and free motion. I forgot what. Anyway, it's the other one. What we used to call intermediate, but actually it's rulers, feathers and fills. And we create spaces, we let you play with lots of different threads, and we'll go through with you some more tips and techniques for how you can get the most out of your long arm quilting machine. So those are the opportunities we've got in June for you, and we'll be launching that, as I say. Now we feel a little bit more confident about the numbers. And I know that a number of you will also have had your second jabs by then, and that just makes all of us feel a little bit safer, doesn't it? Because the stats are quite good on those who've had the jabs. All of these things are sort of, quite dynamic, aren't they? And what we don't want to do is get everybody excited about coming here, and we're excited too, and then have to cancel it all, because that's just awful. And we did all of that last year. We don't want to do that again. So that's a bit on classes. So look out for an email, and you'll be able to order it on the website. For those of you who get a free class, you'll have a code, and you'll be able to enter the code, and it will discount the class to $0. Ordinarily, those classes are either £120 or £150, depending on which one you book on. Classes are one person per machine. It's going to be very, very safe. The feedback we got from last time in the way that we did it was everybody felt very safe, and we had no repercussions, and that was the most important thing for us. Is that both our customers felt safe. People, obviously, we're asking Abigail to come in here, and we want to make sure that she's safe as well as us. None of us wants to get COVID. The thing about the classes then is that going forward, if that all looks hunky-dory, and we're all very happy about it, there will be more opportunities to do classes here. But bear with us, because this is something that we need to take some time to make sure we've got a plan in place. We're planning to do festival this year in July, end of July, August, and you will have seen, any of you who are on the subscription emails to that, you'll have seen more information about that. And we're delighted because, potentially we've got Angela Walters coming, and she'll be doing some classes with us. I believe we are the only people doing a stand-up long arm classroom, and we'll have 6 machines in that classroom, and we'll be running classes throughout with Angela, Abigail and Linda, and Pete and I will be doing some as well, because obviously that's something that gives us the opportunity to do the demonstrations and the kind of things that we do here live, and then you can have a play on the machines. We'll also have a stand if the show goes ahead, and that means that you'll have the opportunity to come and talk to us as well. So I hope that's all clear, and we really hope that it takes place, because it's something that we've missed. But obviously it's got to take place in a COVID-safe way, and we know that the organisers are doing everything they can to operate within their remit as organisers of shows, and to fit in with the standards that their trade organisation or trade body has discussed with the government. Lots of testing going on at the moment, so we'll look forward to those of you who went to the nightclub last night in Liverpool. If any of our customers were there, I hope you had a great time. I'm sure that it will have been a really interesting experience for those who did attend. Now, before we get on to the quilting, I just wanted to mention one thing, just a little aside about coming to Pershore. This time of year is a beautiful time of the year in the Worcestershire countryside, which is a beautiful area for blossom, as long as everything doesn't get killed off by the frost that we've been having recently, which in our garden it has. But there's the Blossom Trail, and if you do come to Pershore and you're coming to our showroom either for to test out a long arm or to pick up some thread or whatever else you want to do, we're now open by appointment. Take the opportunity to have a little drive around. And while you're here, this is like a tourist information statement, isn't it? But the unique thing, I say unique, pretty unique thing about this area, also Herefordshire, is that asparagus is here. And every year, up until last year in this, there was the asparagus auction at the Fleece at Bretforton, which is a very old pub not very far away from here, where they would auction off asparagus, the first asparagus of the season. And Pete and I absolutely love picking up some asparagus from the local farms here. The farm shops like Hiller's, where you can pick up what they call a round of grass, spelt G-R-A-S. So there's a little bit of things about Pershore, which we do love this area. So if you do come here, we hope you enjoy it, and there's lots of things to see, like Croom as well, National Trust property. Let's talk about quilting, because the bank holiday Monday is due to come up and it's going to pour down with rain. So we figure that you might want to get on with some quilting. And in which case we want to talk about one of the main constituents of quilting, which is the thread. So we've got some special offers this week, and we basically wanted to talk to you a little bit about the glide thread and the new Deco Bob cones, and we've been selling the Deco Bob pre-ones for quite a while. Any questions so far? I'm just going to scroll through my good morning, Maureen and Joe, and hello, Helen from Lampeter, and hi to Mary, hi from Oxfordshire, hi there, and Patricia Hunter, and Jean and Vera, West Oxford, yes, I know. So it's good to have so many of you here, having come onto our Facebook Live and just posting some comments. If there's any specific questions that you've got about anything that we demonstrate here today, just pop them on the Facebook Live, and we'll try and either answer the questions live or we'll do it on catch-up afterwards. Anything that you want to say while I just take a little bit of my coffee, Pete? No. Oh, Pete is here, by the way.
I am here. The camera just moved, so they must have assumed somebody was moving it. And I've just been responding to one or two.
It's terrible, isn't it? Pete's here.
Val's just pointed that Angela won't be doing classes at our showroom this year.
I know. So what we couldn't guarantee was how long she would be here for. It was just too much to do this year. So, but yeah, we were hoping to have those sort of 3 days after the show. And, I'm gutted as well, because Angela Walters, when she came over in 2015, it was like my best friend had left the building. Honestly, she is just one of those people that you instantly bond with and you just want to have a fun time with. So, yeah, we are sad about that.
Jean's just asked whether she can do the foundation class one day and the feathers, for example, the next day.
Good question. And yes, you can. And that's a really common thing for people to do.
Yeah, that's usually how we set up the classes, Jean.
That's right.
So you can do exactly that.
Yeah.
And hotels and things should be open by then, so you can stay over if it's more convenient.
From May the 17th, you should be able to stay over. I mean, there's options on either the B&Bs. There's individual Airbnbs, obviously. I know there's a B&B in Bishampton, not very far away. You've got the Premier Inn, which has been open throughout the whole thing, so which isn't very far away. Evesham is the one to book, not the Worcester one, by the way. It's the one I've got listed on our website. Okay, so, yep, all good to go. Let's talk about thread. Now, thread, like a lot of manufacturers, Glide has undergone quite a lot of price increases, both on raw materials and shipping costs, particularly in the last year. And whilst we've absorbed all the price increases that we've had to date, and without changing the price, we do need to pass that on the Glide Thread Club only. We are not going to increase the price on the individual spools, which are £4 for the 1,000 metres and £12 for the 5,000 metres on the 40 weight. And it's also on the 60 weight, it's £12 as well. So we're not going to change those prices, but we have, it's such a great deal on the Glide Thread Club that, Pete has had a look at the figures and basically said, no, we need to, from the 1st of June, we're going to increase the prices on the Glide Thread Club. And the Glide Thread Club, it's not a club that you sign up to, but basically we produce the different ranges, like this one, which is vintage wine, or this one, iris, this one,
so these are themed collections,
hummingbird.
9 different threads. Each collection is unique, so none of the colours is duplicated.
I love this one.
And we sell those at a special price.
Setting Sun, Anchorage Bay. Pete and I had a lovely time, actually, didn't we, doing this?
It was one of those lockdown things where not much was happening at the time.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was great. And we came up with all the names and how the threads would look together, and it was a fun thing to do. So we had got, obviously a very, very good deal on that. So take advantage of it. You've got pretty much a month. Yeah, you've got a month to take advantage of the Glide Thread Club at the existing price, which is...
The existing price is £27 for 9 spools, so that's £3 per spool, and it's going up to £3.20 a spool. So the cost of the collection of 9 will be going up to £28.80 on the 1st of June.
That's it. So if you'd like any of the Glide Thread Club, May is the time to grab that opportunity at the current pricing. But let's just talk a little bit more about Glide Thread and what we're trying to do with thread. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we do talk about on our foundation workshop, but I've been doing a few extra things here today to share with you. So one of the things that is on a blog post that Abigail wrote was to show the difference between 40 weight and 60 weight thread. So what I've been stitching out here on the Pro Stitcher is to show you the differences between the thread weights on a stitch sample. Now, this one is linen. Here is linen. And that is basically a 40 weight, let me just move this down. It's a 40 weight thread, and I've stitched it out at 11 stitches per inch. You'll see that I've chosen a design where none of the thread actually is overstitched, okay? And this is done on the Amara, and I'm using Deco Bob in the bobbin. The next one is Glide 60 with Deco Bob in the bobbin, but that's now a 60 weight thread. I'll just turn these lights off actually, Pete, because it might just blow it out a bit.
Yeah. So I'm showing you both those designs in the one frame there so that you can see the difference between the Glide
is that better?
40 weight on the left, yes I think it is,
yeah.
and the 60 weight on the right. Just a finer look to the stitch.
And then I'm just going to move this up and that in, so that you can hopefully... Now the next one is our newest thread on a cone, which is the Deco Bob 80 weight. Pete's having to navigate and get underneath.
Under the handlebars.
Under the handlebars, which is quite tough because I was in the middle of stitching out a design below, which I'm going to show you in a second. So all of these designs are ones where the thread is not overlaid by another thread going on top of it. It's 11 stitches per inch. And what we see here is 40, 60, 80. This very, very fine Deco Bob. This would work very well where you just want it to look quilted, but you don't necessarily want the stitching, the thread to tell the story as much as you do maybe on this and definitely on this.
Yeah, clearly it shows up a lot more on the black fabric we've got than it probably would on any reel.
Yes, and that was the idea. So the other thing is that say you were doing a design, which I started doing here, and then we needed to start the Facebook Live. But this one it's normally a circle, but I've done it as an oval. And the way that it stitches, it actually overlays quite a lot. And the reason I want to do that is when the Facebook Live is finished, I'm just going to record this and put it up as a separate video to show you 80 weight, 60 weight, and 40 weight going in that direction. So the one that's just below it with a very overlaid thread design and with 14 stitches per inch. And what it will show you is the effect of having a thicker thread or a finer thread with an overlay. So what we've got, if we just think about those concepts, what we've got is the variables are the thread weight and the stitches per inch, and is the thread going to go over the same thread path and lead to a thread buildup? Those are the factors that you need to think in your head. Okay, yeah, I'm going to be doing that. So maybe I don't want to do variegated, for example, because variegated thread doesn't always look good when you go back over the thread path. There's a fourth factor. So, solid, variegated, thread path, stitches per inch, and density of design. So those are some things that I thought I would just share with you that for you to think about. I'm just going to grab a sample and just explain a little bit more about the thinking on thread colour. Now, a few years ago in the Radiance Challenge, this was one of the challenges. Obviously, I've not done the binding on this. I do apologise. I know Hilda always goes mad at me for not finishing the binding on my stitch samples. We just didn't have time. So what we've got this lovely turquoise fabric. And
to lay it down, it'll be easier.
Oh, yeah, sure.
The camera to just focus
of course.
on that.
Yeah. There we go. So top left, we've got a glide thread to match exactly the background colour. Now that background colour and the thread, all you get is texture. And it's really important to sort of think about, is that what you're trying to achieve? Are you just looking for a quilted look? The next one we've got here on the right, I've got complete contrast. So, colour wheel, complete contrast, we've got orange. And what you see here is the effect of a thread build-up it's pretty intense, and it creates almost like it pulls you into the center. So, thinking about how thread buildup will actually have an impact on your design and on your quilt. This one in the bottom side is matching, but in this, I'd say matching, same sort of color, but actually we've got metallic. And obviously you've got to think then about how metallic behaves and any of the impacts that it might have in terms of the effect on your quilt. And the final one I've got is a variegated, where one of the colors of the variegation is actually the same as the background that it's stitching on. Now that is not that pronounced on this particular variegated because the variegations are quite short, only being maybe sort of 3/4 of an inch. And the transition to the next color is very short, but they are not always short changes. If that change of color had been 2 inches or 3 inches, all of that bit of that design would disappear. To the eye, that would then just go into the background because it would be the same color as the turquoise. Be aware of the length of variegations on the threads that you're purchasing. Have a look at that when you're actually choosing your background, your thread color to match the background, because that actually, on this one, it's not too bad, but it can actually make it look like a really rubbish bit of quilting if you're not careful. Anything there?
Okay, question here, Liz, about this design. I think that's a Pro Stitcher design. I don't think there's any stencil that I'm aware of where you can...
That one?
Yeah, I think that's the one that Liz was talking about.
Yeah, that one is...
Do you know what it's called?
Well, it's called Open Circle Stipple Block. I can't remember whose it is. No. But I can put it on the web. I'll put it on the... When I do the video to finish stitching that out, I'll put which one it is. But it is a Pro Stitcher standard within the designs within Pro Stitcher, as is the one above it, which I think is an Irene Bloom one. But don't quote me on that.
And yes, Susan, absolutely shocking not doing the binding.
I
just can't get the start.
It's not the only one either. Now, Deco Bob then. Deco Bob is our newest thread line that we've got. Aside from the one that I've been stitching out with here, which is called Antique White, we have a lovely selection of colours. So we've got the, and there's 10% off these until next Friday. So we've got the gold, we've got, where should I put these? Oh, I don't want to put that one on there. Can we do it on here?
Yep.
And the reason I don't want to do it on there, I don't want to disturb that quilt.
Right.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so we've got gold, and we've got beautiful gold.
So these are the
white
Deco Bob spools, 2,000 metres.
2,000 metres, yep.
Normally £9, 10% off this week.
It is, and it's an 80 weight cottonized polyester. So there's a lovely sage green.
So this is the thread that we use all the time as our bobbin thread. We use the pre-wounds, but this is the same thread on a cone.
Get nice red. Obviously a black and a darker grey. Pretty pink, and a taupe. So those are the ones that we've got that are 10% off, and it would be worth, if you've not tried the Deco Bob for your quilting, just a couple of things on using Deco Bob that you might want to take into account. I'm just going to go onto my little stool here. The Deco Bob, it's an 80 weight thread. So for that stitching out, I used a size 14 needle. I did use an MR rather than R. MR is the multi-directional, multi-point needle that's designed. It was originally put on with the Infinity, but now you can put it on all the handy quilter machines. And the reason that I was using it, I wanted to try it out with that particular thread because I was reading a data sheet on the Gross Beckett needles. And one of the things it said about the MR versus the R sharp point is that it is much more precise at that loop that forms on the underside of your stitches, resulting in fewer skip stitches. So for those of you who maybe have had an issue with skip stitches that's still unresolved, consider getting some MR needles, because from what I can see of that information from the manufacturer, that might help you with that issue. So I use a 14. I use a size 16 for both the 60 and the 40 weight glide. What else did I do? I put a thread net. I really want to show that, Pete. I put a thread net on the deco bob. And I have a fairly long thread net on this. And I've actually doubled it over so that this is actually quite smooth. And the edge of it is on the underside, tucked underneath. And I found that that's quite good. It means it doesn't puddle. The thread doesn't puddle down, like you can have a problem with some threads, that it just kind of goes and just goes around the base of the cone, and then you're stitching away, and before you know it, your thread's broken because it's actually jammed on the cone spindle. Okay,
Jennifer, if you're asking about where you can see this video later, we post it on Facebook and on YouTube. It just takes a while to upload the file after we've finished, but sort of by early to mid-afternoon it will be on both our YouTube page and our Facebook page.
Yes, most weeks. I did actually miss doing it last week until Monday, I think. Luckily, one of our customers reminded me. So that was good. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about as well was choosing thread colours. So this is very simple, obviously, sample, and we've shown you the kind of impacts that you can have from matching thread, contrasting thread, etc. But I've got some samples somewhere. Oh yes, let me grab these, and we'll do it over here. And I'll show you something else I've got here. If I just get rid of that deco bob. Are you okay?
So Jennifer, you were talking about the video for the sample quilting.
Yeah, I'll do that later on Facebook and YouTube as well.
Okay.
This one, yeah. So I'll do some stills and put them on Facebook, and then I'll post the video as well. And I'll aim to do that today as well. So bar any eventualities, that will be on there too. Let's just have a quick look on this. This is actually this is kind of a sample of lots of different things, but let me just focus on this one thing here. This is actually a Cindy Needham. Would it help if I just lifted that up a bit? There we go. This is a Cindy Needham stencil base that was stitched out with 40 weight glide in linen for all the ruler work, and then this is 60 weight glide in the centre for the feathers, and that was done on an Amara a while ago.
So you can actually clearly see the difference between the thread weight.
Yeah. And what's nice is because when you're using a finer thread, you can afford to go to a smaller, a larger number, but a small number of stitches per inch, a large number of stitches per inch, a smaller stitch, that it has a different effect. And I think that's something that if you just play around with this, you'll find what you like. And it is about what you like. Another sample I've got here, actually, of glide, which I just cut off, and it's not bound, Susan, is actually a sample I've had for ages. This is 2015 when Carly Porter came over, and she did this lovely bit of graffiti quilting, which I'm going to put a binding around and have it as one of our samples on the wall for when people come. This shows really nicely on a 40 weight glide what the thread buildup does when you use the kind of style of quilting that Carly Porter has, which is this graffiti style of quilting that you can see her on YouTube, and she's got a lovely website as well. Carly is very, very talented. Her background was she actually used to work for Handy Quilters. She used to assemble the machines, and then she got onto stitching out. And she's always been an artist. She's always been a sketchbook artist. And she took her inspiration from some of the graffiti around the area of Salt Lake City, where she lived, and she would take the train, which goes down through the valley in Utah towards Salt Lake, and she would see all this graffiti on the trains and stuff, and that was her inspiration as a young girl. So she started working at Handy Quilter, I think when she was about 18 or 19, and anyway, she left when she was about 26, I think, and has phenomenal experience of both the stitching and the machines, and as an artist. So if you're not familiar with her work, Carly Porter, Karlee Porter.
Yes. Rosemary has kindly mentioned her name because she says she's a real star. She has 2 of her books.
Ah, she is. And she's the sweetest person. I love Carly. She's absolutely great. And she came home. She was celebrating her, I'm going to say, 8th wedding anniversary. And I did not know how old she was when she arrived. She was this incredibly young-looking person. And I just thought, wow, how can it be your 8th wedding anniversary? But she did get married very young. Right.
As they tend to in Salt Lake City.
As they do, yes. So the other thing on Deco Bobs, because I am dotting around a bit here, I do apologise. The Deco Bobs, we looked at the cones, but these are the pre-wounds. These are M size. We only sell the ones that fit our Handy Quilter machines.
That's better. Yeah.
And there are a variety of these mix packs. So we've got that lovely one which is called Blend, and you get 6 each of 4 different colours. We will be doing our other mix packs when we get our Handy Quilter order in as well. But for now, we've just got these at the 10% discount. And
a couple of people saying what great courses Carly does too.
Yes, she does. And they're incredibly well rated. So if those of you who are interested, have a look at Carly's site. She really is super. She's incredibly experienced. You would learn a ton of stuff from Carly. So this is basic and neutral. And then we've got another mixed one we've got is the greys, which is called Stone. And then you can get, so that's 6 of each of 4 different colours, or you can get packs of 24. 10% off of a single colour. So that's grey. We've got we've just got the whole range of, nearly the whole range of the Deco Bobs, pretty much. The other thing with the Glide to mention is that you can get a colour card. And this is absolutely beautiful. There we go.
So this was redesigned by Filtech last year. So this is different from the shade card you might have if you bought one a few years ago. It's better because the individual swatches of colour are larger than on the original. So actually you get a better representation of the colour. And it also includes all of their new colours too, all of which we have in stock. Brilliant. And if you're looking for it on our website, search for Shade Card.
Is that what it's?
Yes.
I can never remember.
It can be difficult to find it otherwise.
Shade Card. Yes. Okay. Right. Should we just do this over here on the top of this? Now, when you're choosing fabric and matching thread to your fabric on your quilt, it's an interesting thing to pick, isn't it? What colour you're going to use when you might have a wide variety of colours within the block. What we recommend you do is, and this is actually something that Leah Day, who does the sort of Quilt Today, lots of YouTube videos and stuff. Leah Day, in one of her books that I got, I thought it was a really good quote. She says, "Test, don't guess." And I totally agree with that, because you cannot really tell unless you've got loads of experience. You can't really tell what something's going to look like. Now, when you're looking like something like this, you might decide that you want something really obvious. Maybe you want to sort of something. These fabrics are quite well. This is like a Japanese, so it's almost like a sashiko type thing. You might want to have a really obvious either dark navy or cream. But say you wanted something a little bit different. These are all glide threads here. And what you do, these spools actually, these cones, they pop at the bottom like so that when you want to put your thread away, you just wind it around the bottom like that and then clip it back in place. For a number of years, because I'm not always the smartest tool in the toolbox, she says, this here, I used to try and get off with a pair of scissors, and it actually just comes off like so. When somebody showed me that, I thought it was like magic. I know, I worry sometimes too. Now, when you're auditioning, Pete's just laughing too much. You are kind of sniggering.
I couldn't possibly comment.
No. Anyway, so to audition your threads, get plenty of thread off. Think about where it's going to be. In other words, have you got daylight around you as well? And just try and just lay the threads over your quilt block. And just see which of them you like the best. Bear in mind that when you stitch it, it will be effectively in a little channel, and it might be, if it's too light, so this one, for example, you might feel is just too light. That's a mauve. That one, beautiful colour. And it goes really well with this, but it's a little, probably maybe a little bit too bright. But this one, you might find that pulls nicely into there, and that you like it on this kind of linen effect fabric, and etc. So, we've got dusty plum, we've got mauve, we've got purple rose, and we've got wine.
The point is, if you simply put the whole spool of colour against the fabric, it doesn't give you a representation as to how that's going to look. So you want a single line of thread, because that's what is going to end up on the quilt.
Yeah.
Difficult to show this, I think, on the video here. But hopefully you'll get the idea. This is the best way to try and get the right effect that you're looking for. Yeah.
And it's a really good point, Pete, and well explained, because exactly that it's just a fine line. Do you know, when you're choosing fabric as well, there is a real danger of just putting the bolts together and not unwinding the bolt and just putting the smaller pieces. It's the same thing. The fabric doesn't look the same.
Liz, you'll be pleased to hear you weren't the only one using scissors to take the...
I hoped somebody was.
Thank you, Georgie.
Hey, Georgie! That makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. We're in good company, Georgie.
Okay, I think there are a few other people out there as well. Some of them maybe might not be happy to admit it, but no shame at all.
No shame. I have no shame. Right.
Here's another good example.
Here's another one. Yeah, so this is really mixed. This was, I think it was a K-Facet sample pack, and I put it with...
Oh, lots of people. Helen's been using scissors. Well, there we are. Glad to be of assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is bow tie, and I cut it out with, I think I was using Sizzix. I just love this, actually. It's going to be, this is going to go really well with our new furniture. Look, perfect.
Are you actually going to do something with that?
I am actually going to do something with it.
Are you going to bind it?
I'm going to make it into a cushion, Pete. I'm not going to bind it.
Yeah, will the cushion have a back?
It will have a back. It will have a back. I did finish that Inktense one off. Right, so lavender. Lavender's lovely. It's slightly darker on that outside border than, say, something like amethyst. If you look at amethyst, whoop, that one's still alive. Okay. So unravel it and just have a look. Okay, it depends on what quilting design you're going to do, but that's lovely on the lighter sections. And then we've got more pinky, if you want to go more pinky. And Wisteria. Wisteria is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And like I say, when you're actually quilting and it goes into that, pulls down into the wadding, you don't want something necessarily lighter than the fabric around it. Otherwise, it'll show up more than you might want. But this would look really nice. I like that as well. So many to choose from. So many. And something like that. Because actually, this is a shot. This is a shot cotton. So it has got pink in it too. You might want to pull to the pink. Lovely. So some beautiful colours there.
So those two little tips on the glide threads are going down really well.
Oh, yeah?
It's really interesting, actually.
The plastic.
When we have classes here,
yes.
And people come for their full-day class, and Liz and Abigail do a huge amount of work in preparation and doing the teaching on the day.
Yep.
And sometimes it's those tiny little tips that people go away with.
And they go,
that make the whole thing worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is really why we want to do the classes again, because we know that there's so much information that we can impart with you. but also that you get from your cohort. One of the wonderful things about the people who've now got handy quilter machines in the UK, and I will do the map for last year, and this year I will do a map for it. Actually, it's 2019 and 2020. I haven't done those. It was a map, not a detailed map. It was like a PDF. But if you are, say, up in the Highlands of Scotland and you don't think there's any handy quilter owners around you, there might be. And it's not the kind of thing that people obviously take to a class that you see, because that wouldn't be practical. But I had a call, in fact, during the week, which is why I'm mentioning it, from a lady down in near Windsor. And I know we've got a couple of customers down there, and this customer who has just recently upgraded to a Simply 16 from a sit-down, she was interested in getting in touch with one of the other customers. So, Jean, I'll be emailing you later, because the customer was interested in knowing if you wanted to kind of get together, which would be lovely. Because, we don't just learn from, Abigail or Pete or I. You're going to learn, there's a huge amount of knowledge amongst many of our customers. Some of our customers have been quilters for a long time, or have taught patchwork and quilting, done city and guilds, etc. And there are certain people who just have an incredible amount of information, and quite often at classes that they teach me stuff too. So, we always keep learning, and I think that's something to remember. I'm really looking forward to quilting that. Now, the other thing I was going to mention, because neutrals there's two other things I'm going to mention. Neutrals, like this is one that I haven't finished. This is one that I did with, and I've used it in other examples of...
Liz, it might be worth just noting how you've mounted that on the frame, because this is a common question that we get from people.
Oh yeah, true.
You've got a cushion-sized piece
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't how I always do it, but I was taking this on and putting it off, taking it on and off a lot, this particular piece. So what I did in the end was, because I wanted to do some pro-stitcher borders on it, and I want to do free motion in here. So what I've done is actually, I've just got some extra bits of wadding sandwich, top and bottom, and I took it to my sewing machine. I just stitched along and just joined it. So I've actually got that piece there. Now you could use basing gun, you could use some pins, but I've also pinned the sides, because obviously getting consistency is really important. And if we use these grips to attach it to your take-up rail, you can also, once those are in place, you can then just adjust the tightness of it with your ratchet wheel at the end of the frame. So either of those things can be just then tightened. And I've got my other quilt on the side. So that's just really easy. This is...
Quick question, Liz.
Yeah.
Sally says, what about invisible thread if the pattern on the fabric is vibrant?
Yeah.
I've never tried using it on my Sweet 16.
Oh, okay. Yeah, invisible thread. There are invisible thread, monofilament, 0.004 microns or whatever it is. The downside is plastic of a type that's more like a fishing line, fine fishing line.
Generally.
Oh, it's nylon. Yeah, some is actually. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Generally, it's not always.
Yeah, you're right. It's nylon filament, isn't it?
Yes.
Corrected. Thank you, Pete. You're right. It is nylon, and the thing about it is that it does have a bit of stretch to it. I don't always want to put it in baby quilts, really. So I suppose I've shied away from it more recently. Back in the 90s, I used it a lot because you could just do the whole thing. But where I tend to go now is either a very, very fine thread. This is a 100-weight thread. This is Invisifil, so even finer than the Deco Bob. And you've also got Micro Quilter from Superior. Now, my preference is to use that, actually, than invisible thread, because this acts much more like a normal thread. And it will pull, if you use certain colours, like, and this is something that Abigail and I, we discussed doing in our Foundation Plus, that we would recommend certain colours, like bone is a perfect example. Bone is the most amazing colour. it might not go with this so much.
It's rapidly become perhaps one of our most most popular colours.
On here, it just
you can't really see it. It's a very got a very slight sort of pinky blush to it, hasn't it?
It has.
But it's a whitey pink, and it really blends fantastically.
It blends incredibly well. I mean, there it's just, I've laid it on there.
You can barely see it.
You can barely see it, but actually, look at it. You'd think that would stand out, but you put it on the fabric and it doesn't. It just pulls to it. It's amazing. So bone is a great one. Celery is a really good one. Prickly pear is a really good one. You know, we can talk with you on the classes about, and you can see, because we've got all the stock here, you know, what the impact is. So rather than using invisible, which is clear either in smoke or clear nylon, I would go to a thread personally.
Okay, Rosemary, yes, if you're using the 100-weight threads, you do need to adjust the threading on your machine. You would only need to use one.
I would use one
of the holes on your pre-tensioner assembly.
I would use one. I have used two for the deco bob, and again that's with a thread net, and
so
with
on your pre-tensioner here.
That's
just use the top hole and then carry on with the threading.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll put too much twist on the nylon thread.
Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah, with invisible thread, you only need to put it through one.
And Mary says, are these all glide threads? Yes, these are all glide threads here that Liz has been talking about.
Yeah, and this is where I'm sort of looking at these in terms of auditioning for something that's very neutral. Yeah. And what I wanted to show you was what a fabulous selection of neutrals that are in the glide thread.
So here we've got bone, linen, cream, pearl and white.
Yeah, there are more neutrals.
There are lots of different neutrals.
Yeah, so have a look at the glide on the website, or if you get the colour card, you'll be able to take it home and compare it to the quilt that you have at home. Or if you're in the vicinity, you know, call us in advance, and if we're here, you'd be very welcome to come and visit and bring your quilt.
So Derek says khaki blends in well too. Morning, Derek.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Khaki is good. And Maureen says that Jamie Wallen's a big fan of celery and prickly pear colours.
Yes.
Yep, indeed.
Absolutely.
They're very good shades.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, yes. The other thing that, in terms of doing something like what I've got here, is I would tend to use the microfoot, which is this little foot here. It looks like someone's got a saw and taken off the loop, the circle of your foot. But it's absolutely brilliant for doing these sort of feathers. You can really see where your needle is going. And if you base down, say you were doing a vintage piece like this on a base, I would just pin it loosely in place, stitch around it using the glide foot. And then when you want to do your edges, if you're using Pro Stitcher, for example, I would definitely pin these sections back, and then when it's done, it will look nice and go right to the edge underneath this loose layer. So that's something that I would do, and I would use that microfoot.
So Di's asking what this fabric is that you've got, the satin type fabric here?
It is like a. I actually don't know exactly what that one is, but it looks like a sateen. It was in the States, so it wasn't one that I bought. But if you have a look, the thing to do, have a look at Kelly Klein's vintage quilting on Facebook. I can share the link on Facebook for you. Kelly is just amazing at finding thrift store purchases, like, you know, these kind of handkerchiefs and things like that, and then quilting on them. If you go on her Facebook page, you'll see the kind of things that she uses, whether it's like a silk or whether it's a sateen or something like that, and then mixes it with the vintage linens.
Yeah, so Di says Kelly is great. Yes, she is. She taught a class at our academy back in 2018.
She did.
She was fantastic.
She was fantastic. We learnt a lot, and I was lucky enough to take a class the year before that in Salt Lake City, where I learned quite a lot about, how it's really weird. Doing smaller pieces on a big frame is something that you just don't think about doing when you've got one of these. So hopefully that'll inspire some of you that just want to do a small piece and maybe don't have a sit-down long arm, but you've got a stand-up long arm. Yes, you absolutely can do it.
Yep, and Julie, yes, you can use cotton thread. or a fill 50.
Yes.
Will work absolutely fine.
Yeah. We just focused on these ones this week because we wanted to mention to you about the Glide Thread Club. So don't forget, prices going up on the 1st of June. And also they got 10% off the Deco Bob pre-wounds and Deco Bob cones. And, you know, it is just such a lovely thread to use. I actually used it for piecing. I know a lot of people use it for applique too. I used it for piecing a, what's it called? Apple core quilt. And it was very important. Apple core is really quite challenging quilt to piece because you've always got everything is on the bias. And with the Deco Bob, I was able to get really precise piecing because when you're doing a 1/4 inch seam, you don't get the bulk because it's an 80 weight thread. Fantastic. And I would really recommend doing that for anybody who's looking to do like really, really small miniature work as well. But Philippa Naylor's the person to get hints and tips on that, not me. Anyway, it's 10 to 12. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to. Have I got everything? Look out for email. So yes. Yeah, that was nothing. That's price increase. Yeah, so yeah, we're done. All right, well, listen, as always, it's been a real pleasure to connect with everybody who has been watching live. And thank you very much for taking the time out of your day today to say hi. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Pete's got one more thing.
And Claire, yes, Cindy Needham stencils are all back in stock.
They are. Yep, we've got plenty of stock of those, so don't hesitate. They'll be very useful for you. Those of you who've never used the Cindy Needham, you do get a PDF. It's almost like a book that you get on how to use it as well. Plus on Pinterest, there's loads of examples that Cindy has shared on Pinterest of how to use her templates and her stencils. So they're great, absolutely perfect. Work well with the pounce as well as the chalk markers. Okay, any other questions that I can answer live?
Coming through. Thank you everybody for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope you enjoy your bank holiday weekend.
Yes, we'll keep fingers crossed that the rain isn't too heavy here in the UK. And for those of you abroad who've got beautiful weather, just think of us. Just think of us. It's still cold here. We've still got the heating on. Okay. We'll catch up with you next Saturday when we'll be talking more about lots of other things to do with quilting. We're never short of things to talk about. All right, so bye from me and Pete. Have a lovely week, everybody.